Welcome, ahoy and avast from Plymouth, Devon's historic maritime city.
For centuries, Plymouth has harboured ocean-going explorers, buccaneers and pirates. Today, it's awash with artists.
All swashbucklers hoping to sail off with the prize. Shiver me timbers! It's Sky Arts Landscape Artist of the Year.
Throughout this series, we're visiting some of Britain's most enchanting and exciting scenery.
I love that it's a seascape. I'm always drawn to the sea for some reason. I get seasick, so it doesn't even make any sense.
48 talented artists are charged with capturing these sensational views as they strive for creative glory.
Competing today are 3 amateur artists: James Murch, Stephen Rigby and Emma Lord.
Well, if I wasn't here, I'd be doing my day job. I'm a secondary school teacher, I teach art, so I'd be teaching Year 8 in the next half an hour. I'm feeling pretty nervous, if I'm honest.
Joining them are 5 professionals: Pavel Isapov, Lisa Takahashi, Paula Mitchell, Mike Skinner and Tony Parsons.
I haven't had any sleep at all. I went to bed and I stared at the ceiling and then I got up again. I'm buzzing, I've got lots of caffeine in me and that should see me through.
The artists are all competing for a £10,000 commission to paint a Venetian vista in honour of the eminent Victorian art critic John Ruskin.
To be in with a chance of taking the top prize, our artists must impress our 3 exacting judges: Kathleen Soriano, Kate Bryan and Tai-Shan Schierenberg.
It's good to have a time limit, really, because I think I'm starting to get fiddly.
Oh, you've got the smallest brush out now, have you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always a bad time. I know, it's time to step away.
Know.
Also hoping to impress the judges at every heat are a further 50 artists, our Wildcards.
I never work on canvas. It's always metal. It's either bike tanks or... motorbike tanks.
One of them will definitely win the competition, the other one won't.
Ow! That's awful!
Well, so the choice is yours. Don't make the wrong decision.
Yeah, brilliant.
While the 8 artists settle into their pods and each select their composition, the judges review their qualifying online submissions.
Well, judges, here we are, by the sea. This is someone who loves water.
Yeah, I think there's a sort of rich, old-fashioned, green and pleasant England to it. And I think it lives off the water and the reflection on the water and the way that bit of blue just pops as it sort of echoes the sky.
This is a rather ferocious picture, isn't it?
I think what I really like about it is the sky immediately makes me think of someone like Turner, and then you see that what's leading you to the sky are these really brutal electricity pylons.
The whole thing is done by an artist who's fascinated in car tracks in the snow, and they've done it in a very naive but believable way.
You just wonder, with this scene of emptiness, what actually has gone on? They've got a great compositional eye. I love that combination of the contemporary on the cliff above the building and the historic down below. It's like that mashing up of the 2 worlds that we see so much in English seasides.
They've retained a kind of strong sense of understanding composition, of colour.
I love the way with lino cuts where you often get a bit of the ink falling out of the frame of the canvas, and you can see those lovely sort of bands of orange on the far right-hand side.
I think one of the things I like about it is that the seagull gets better treatment than the people.
It seems that the whole landscape has been made out of accidents, in a sense, the way the paint runs, the way it pools, which is very beautiful. I'm thinking, how would the artists deal with a landscape like today to make certain decisions, and can they work with accidents?
I love the way in which they've dealt with the rain in this foreground. You can just sense the wetness of the city and the twilight sort of coming down, these little pops of red with their brake lights of the cars observed so well.
A third of the painting is taken up with this sand-strewn path that we're standing on. And this beautiful pile of clothes in the corner on the right, you know, is reminiscent of early French painting. And so it's got a lot of art historical knowledge in it, but above all, very well painted.
We've got a variety of weathers in all these submissions. It remains to be seen what they make of today's weather.
Artists, we hope this view floats your boat because the challenge is about to begin.
You have 4 hours to complete your artwork, and your time starts now.
Our artist's first challenge is deciding which part of this panoramic vista to paint. Looking out across Plymouth Sound, the prominent landmark is Drake's Island, as well as a constant fleet of vessels, from the smallest of pleasure craft to colossal cargo ships.
So what we've given our artists today is part of a long British art tradition, you know, the seascape or marine painting. You've got a fantastic foreground, middle ground and distance with the little island. You've got a wonderful sea that's really calm at the moment, but has a lot of intricacies and complexity to the surface of it. And if they're not interested in the sea, they've only got to look over to the right-hand side and you've got that lovely little harbour. So we've given our artists a quintessential British scene in quintessentially British weather.
First impressions are, it's deceptively tricky. Obviously, it's a limited colour palette at the moment, but obviously if the weather changes, then the colour palette will change.
It's still nice, even though it's not great weather. I think I'll make something of it.
The view I'm really happy with. It's quite a nice kind of letterbox shape. As the rain is starting to clear, it's looking really interesting.
Paula, I noticed that you're wearing the same colours that you've started your oil sketch in.
It wasn't planned at all. Didn't think I was going to get to wear this jacket.
But they're your go-to colours, presumably.
I do tend to use purple as the darker shade. So even if it's dark green, I tend to use dark purple.
Paula Mitchell from Portsmouth divides her time between working as a freelance graphic designer and painting. Particularly keen on capturing seascapes, her submission of Ryde Beach on the Isle of Wight was painted in oils on a scorching bank holiday.
You've started off here with a fantastic composition. I mean, how did you land on that arrangement?
I always try and find something that has a strong structure, so it has a lead-in, so your eye gets drawn around the picture.
But you've been quite brave. You've given yourself quite a big expanse of sea, which I know is what we see in front of us. But you could have gone a little bit closer.
It seems like a huge expanse, but there's a lot of colour differences, there's a lot of texture differences. I've got the currents on the top of the water, which I can use as a mechanism to lead you into the painting.
Great, well, good start. Nice size, nice composition, lovely colours.
I hope so.
So you don't make any sketches, you're straight in there with the paintbrushes?
I do a rough block in, trying to find a pattern of light and dark, which is quite difficult because of the weather.
But no pencils, no charcoal?
Just straight in paint, yeah.
Brushes, fingers, doesn't really matter?
Yeah, I use fingers sometimes, yeah. Just to block in, really.
From nearby Paynton, amateur artist James Murch paints plein air as often as possible. His depiction of a local boating lake painted in all its spring splendour took 9 hours to complete, requiring numerous trips to capture.
What do you think about this kind of grey seascape we've given you?
How would you feel? It's not my first choice.
What about if the sun came out? Better or worse?
If it stays more or less like this, I'll be okay, I think. But sometimes the sun coming out can give you just what you need to kind of put a bit of interest in there.
Talk us through why. Does it make a painting more punchy if there's more light and shade? Because in your submission, the greens are very varied and your paint actually gets very, very thick. This is what happens. The colour gets stronger and the paint gets thicker. Is this what we're looking forward to?
Well, yeah, I try and focus a lot on colour, and I suppose naturally you do get more of an impasto effect.
Well, it's early days, but we've got lots of nice greys on there, James. So see what happens.
One artist has arrived with an impressive array of kit to realise her seascape.
Well, now, Lisa, you've come with a lino cut.
Yes.
Now, you've arrived with a lot of equipment, so here's obviously the cutting equipment.
Yes.
But what's going on with all this stuff here? The
so
mirror.
The mirror is where I ink up. It's a bit of a good luck charm. And I've also got a box of pretty much junk, but
Right.
to me it's treasure. I'll squeeze out the ink and roll it onto these things. So, like this wallpaper, for example, is my favourite for sky and
Yes.
sea.
Lisa Takahashi made it to the semi-final of Landscape Artist of the Year 2018 as a winning wildcard, with her oil painting of Broadstairs in Kent. This year's submission is a view of Padstow Harbour made by lino cut, a technique she'll also be using today.
The first process is cutting the lino.
Yes.
How are you going to do that here?
Yes, so basically with lino cut, I start by carving the palest colour and then I will print that layer. So that printing will start quite early on and then I carve away even more and then print colour. Most of the day will be spent carving here and every now and then I'll whip over here and ink up and print.
Also embracing the dank day on foggy Plymouth Hoe is a veritable armada of 50 artists, our Wildcards, all vying for the chance of a place in the semi-final. Their view today is the eye-catching lighthouse, Smeaton's Tower.
It's a bit of a disaster, isn't it? I'm trying to balance act here. Important bits.
That's a completed picture. I'm just going to put a grey mess on it and that'll be finished.
That is brilliant already. That sky is Turner-esque.
Thank you.
Despite the sea fog hindering their view of Drake's Island, one of our 8 competitors has rapidly seized the scene.
I've got the island, that's quite key. Everything else is kind of up for grabs. So I've got boats coming past and they're going to create ripples. So that's big slashed lines across the composition and I'm going to use those to point at the interesting things, the island, the headlands. So very much the boats are a movable feast.
A professional artist based in Brighton, Tony Parsons' favourite subjects to paint are the city's Victoriana, including this lift on a local beach, which took him just 90 minutes to complete.
You look like you've almost finished, and we're less than an hour in.
I have bought 2 canvases.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you double booked yourself.
No, the idea is to go fast and have expressive strokes. Once I've made all the decisions, put as much as I need to say what I want to say, and no more. I really hate overworking a painting.
So you go speed and then you bring in a second one to stop you overworking?
It's speed and chaos, yeah, and then try and chip happiness out of the chaos.
1 hour into the challenge, and as varied as the views today, so too are the artists' interpretations.
You've chosen to avoid the building.
I wanted just one statement of composition, really. Otherwise, it can start getting very fussy, and that's what I was worried about, really.
It's going to have a quiet nobleness to it, isn't it, that island, in order to beat everyone else here, don't you think? You do want to win, don't you?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, it's about the colour for me. It doesn't really matter what the subject is.
I'm going to cut the architecture out of the lino, so the sort of decorative elements.
Lots of detail.
Yeah.
OK, I'm looking forward to seeing those little windows pop in.
I like to think that you spend the first 10 minutes putting the art in and then the next 2 hours knocking the art back out of it. That's when I'll take the canvas off and I'll put another one on and try again. It might be better, it might be worse.
Here on the headland at Plymouth Hoe, our artists are approaching the second hour of their 4-hour challenge, with one artist navigating a free-flowing medium.
We're painting alcohol inks, some ink in an alcohol base rather than a water base. I use gravity, I use a heat gun, and I use a hairdryer to manipulate the inks around the canvas, so it comes up with some really interesting shapes and blends of colour, so it's completely unique. I'm not always 100% sure exactly what it's going to do.
Head of art at a secondary school in Preston, Emma Lord has been using this distinctive technique for the past 4 years to create semi-abstract landscapes, like her submission of the light falling through trees in the forest of Bowland.
There's very little drawing there. So,
Yeah.
I mean, in your mind's eye, do you know what the composition is?
I know that the headland is going to
yeah.
be coming through and just gradually getting darker as I come forward. It is a matter of layering, so I'll do another layer and then I'll mask out some areas of that I want to keep that colour and
Can
then
you
build
see
it
the
up.
finished work in your mind?
No, not really.
Oh, can you see it, the steps that you're going to
Yeah, yeah. I have like a little bit of a process in my mind, but at the same time, there's quite a lot of areas that are not under my control, so there is a little bit of serendipity involved in it as well.
Steve, you're quite far along. I mean, you're working in
Yes.
watercolour, so that's quick.
But that sort of style where it's
Impressionistic.
but there's enough there to state what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm more concerned with tones and colour. Different scales of grey, really. You've got a purpley grey, you've got greeny grey, back to purple.
Watercolourist Stephen Rigby from Merseyside works all over the country as a water treatment engineer. But his submission of Liverpool's Liver building in his favourite muted palette is a subject he regularly returns to.
Tell me about this pooling here at the bottom. This sort of very almost like symbolist rising smokiness from it. Do you think that will stay, or will you sort of move a lot of that away over the course of the day?
I've seen a couple of figures before.
Swimming?
Canoe, no, in canoes.
Oh, canoe.
And I'll use them to bring the eye round.
There's the danger, isn't there, that it can flip into being a bit too kitschy.
Yeah.
Sometimes, how do you keep it back?
So it's not knowing when to start, it's knowing when to stop.
But at the moment, it's telling you to keep on going.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Great.
Yeah, it's a long way to go yet.
So things are looking up. The sun's coming out. It's a very different proposition.
It's actually quite warm. This morning I was freezing. There was nothing to paint. The sky and the sea were one, and I couldn't see either of the headlands there, and I could just about discern that that was an island or some lump of grey in the middle. So, yeah, it's looking good. It's looking much better for our artists, and there's a lot to paint. I know one artist has used the opportunity of a rather large boat came across and sort of splitting it in the water and creating sort of current.
They've got to be careful with boats, though, because your tweometer goes off the scale very easily.
It does, indeedy, yeah. I haven't seen any twee boats, though.
OK, good. That sea's incredibly flat. It's tough to paint, no? You're the artist. What would you do if you were painting that?
Well, look, it's about creating an interesting composition. Here, the colours are starting to pop out. The headland's a beautiful colour. The island is beautiful structures, the trees and the buildings on it. So there's a lot to work with. And, you know, painting's about using contrast. So with all this detail, you know, you need a bit of flat sea to work against it. I'm very difficult to please. I'd be happy painting this empty space here.
It's so flat that it's going to be very hard to stop Joan going jet skiing later.
I want to see that.
Meanwhile, keeping watch at the lighthouse are our 50 wildcards. You've decided to paint it when it was quite overcast. The sun's come out. Will you change the sky?
If you change the sky, it affects the light and the way that it hits everything, so then I'd kind of have to redo the light on everything. So I might try and stick to the moodier landscape, which is what I prefer really anyway.
Good luck.
Thank you so much.
You've got all the sort of the natural forms in, haven't you, with the island and the cliff in the background?
Yep.
Nice use of that in the foreground as well. But you've also put some boats in. Were they actually there?
I promise you they were.
OK.
There's one there now, look.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So, Richard, we brought you up to the top of this bluff.
Yes.
overlooking the sea,
Yes.
the bay, the lighthouse, and the gloriousness of the English coastline.
Indeed.
You're painting a road in the opposite direction.
It is, to be accurate, it's the car park.
Can I ask you why?
Well, because the only thing I could see this morning, because the mist was everywhere. There's some interesting things there, but there were lovely puddles, and the reflections were great this morning. So I just thought.
Do you use the expression "lovely puddles"?
I like lovely puddles.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough.
This is this island here, can you see?
Yeah.
And then this here is this, apparently it's Cornwall over here.
Thrilling.
Thank you very much.
I hope you're enjoying it.
I am, I'm loving it, I'm having a great day.
Not all our competitors have been charmed by the sea view, with one of our 8 artists focusing his attention in a different direction.
Pavel, we've given you this wide open scene here, the bay, the distant clouds, and you've decided to paint a little corner of the harbour.
When I saw the view, I was actually really excited because I'm drawn very much to the geometry of the urban landscape. And having this kind of the curvature of this road going down, it's almost like it's sculpted these forms, the little houses kind of embedded into a rock. I think that really caught my imagination.
The youngest painter in today's heat, Pavel Isapov, has just graduated in fine art from Edinburgh University. His submission in oils of tyre tracks in the snow was painted from a photograph taken on an evening walk through the Edinburgh suburbs.
Well, your submission was all about shape, and you've really found these really interesting shapes here. I mean, we don't actually see the sky in this composition at all, do we?
Yeah, I actually quite frequently like to crop the sky out. I like to dip below the horizon.
But what we also got from your submission is a great sense of sort of narrative or mystery or atmosphere. Is that what drives the painting, really?
Yes, yeah, of course. It's important to get the kind of a sentiment of a place right. I'm going to not put in any cars or any kind of little benches, because I quite enjoy the loneliness of the space, because it was quite a lonely morning this morning.
Yeah.
It looked like, because it was raining, not many people about. So.
Okay.
My work is slightly dystopian. I'm trying to sort of get underneath the landscape in a way, to the bone structure, and describe it in a modern way. Hopefully that works.
Mike Skinner from Stroud switched from being a professional commercial artist to one who could choose what he wanted to paint: industrial landscapes. His submission of Rainham Marshes in Essex was completed in his signature mix of acrylics, biro and permanent marker.
You're really not afraid of different mediums?
Not at all.
So what have you put down so far today? We've got paint on the board,
I've had
pencil.
coloured pencil, biro.
What would you say the focal point here is?
I think once this bay has some energy, everything will spin off that.
Tell me what you mean.
I want to sort of describe the energy today as it's
Okay.
kind of changing and moving.
So would that be through colour, or will it be through sort of dramatic movement, or...?
It's through dramatic movement.
Yeah. And how is it experimenting outdoors like this? Are you normally outdoors?
I'm quite a fair weather kind of guy.
Right.
Today's been quite challenging. As you can tell, my voice has gone.
We're going to have to toughen you up.
I know.
We need a bit more outdoor painting, I think.
Our artists are nearly halfway through their challenge, with crucial equipment failing under pressure.
Maybe it's the stress of the day, but I've been sort of furiously burnishing my print, and as a result, the bamboo leaf is now fraying. So I'm now having to use Plan B, which is the metal spoon.
And there are concerns about artistic decisions already made.
Maybe I've tried to include too much. It's really tricky. If I can get an essence of the day, even if maybe some things are not a little off, I'd be happy with that.
I'm working on the more dramatic colours that we've got.
With that big boat that came through not so long ago.
Yeah, although, to be honest, it came through so fast, I can't remember the details. I should have photographed it, to be honest.
I've put another canvas on the easel. I feel a bit like the kid in an exam that's finished an hour or two before everyone else. And I was sort of thinking, what are they doing that I've missed?
Our 8 artists are 2 hours into their 4-hour challenge to capture the picturesque West Country coastline. At this halfway stage of the competition, what do the judges think of our artists' progress?
So we're at the seaside, and often when you're by the sea, you contend with a lot of different weather. It makes it interesting for them, doesn't it?
It does. It makes it difficult too, though, because they start off with this misty, mysterious place, and as the day's gone on, it's sort of revealed itself to them.
James's submission suggested that this would be an ideal landscape for him. Is it turning out that way?
I think James made the right choice with that composition, but I do think it's looking a bit flat at the moment.
I mean, James is a seasoned plein air painter. He knows what he's doing. But I think the brush marks, in a funny way, in this painting are too big. But we're only halfway through, so I think it will be more realistic as the day wears on.
Emma is over there applying paint, heating it, it's crackling, it's spitting. It's like painting meets welding.
What I'm worried about at the moment is that she's starting to create something that's feeling a little bit sort of kitschy.
I think using the inks she does, the colours are very strong. And so a green is a green, a blue is a blue. It becomes a very obvious type of that colour. And I think maybe through the process, she'll be able to sort of make them blend a bit more into the light of today.
Tony has painted one picture and he's on to his second.
I mean, I think Tony might have overpainted his first picture. He was so quick, and I thought, well, this would be great because we won't have something too heavy. He'll keep this sort of vivacity, go onto a second canvas. And when I look at the first canvas there on the floor, I think he did put too much down. I'm hoping he learns a lesson for that for the second one.
Pavel has zoomed in on what interests him, that man-made landscape.
Yeah, Pavel found the curve. It takes us in very beautifully, and he's still giving us a bit of nature, but he doesn't like to paint anything that doesn't have some sense of, you know, humanity or the man-made in it. And he's very clever, painting exactly what is in front of him, but slightly to the right.
Lisa has all sorts of processes going on, all these different methods she's using. She's very busy.
Yeah, Lisa's work isn't as punchy as the submission, but she's playing a very difficult game. It's a reduction lino cut. We will only see the final print at the end of the day when there's nothing left of the lino she's cutting out. So I'm kind of excited, but also worried as hell. But
all to play for. And let's see how the weather changes. Things could change very quickly.
I've been panicking quite a lot. I've just noticed that I should have inked up some of the windows black. And the thing is with this printmaking, you don't know how it's going to be until the very last pull. And so, you know, I'm sort of in the dark a little bit about whether it's going to be a good print or a bad print.
How has the changing weather affected you? 1 minute it's cloudy and overcast, the next minute it's blue sky.
Yeah, it's actually helped a bit because I was struggling to find values, and as the sun's come out, it's put a bit more colour into it. I tend to have an emphasis on colour, so it has helped. I think if it was the other way around, it would have been a problem.
Pavel, you like to take what reality has given you.
Yeah.
And you like to put it through your own imagination, your own filter.
Oh, absolutely. I anticipated the changing light, so I decided to go for an experimental colour palette, which will give me room to manoeuvre if the sun came out all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I'm really trying to capture the stillness of this road, very serene nature of it.
Tony, there's one question I'm forced to ask right away.
Go on then.
When you've done a painting as good as this,
Yeah.
why have you moved on to a second one?
Primarily everything changed.
Oh,
that started quite moody, and then the light lifted massively, and the tide went out. As cardinal sin is chasing the light.
Yeah.
And I felt I was coming up to the borderline where ruination lay.
The view our artists are painting today features Plymouth's historic Drake's Island. In the late 19th century, Drake's Island was part of a huge military construction project whose ruins still haunt the island today. It was 1860 and a time of great instability on mainland Europe, with a resurgent French navy threatening British waters. To combat this, a series of forts named Palmerston Forts after the then Prime Minister was built along the south coast and specially constructed to house a new generation of armaments.
You went from having wooden ships made with pitch and tar, which you could attack with cannonballs that had been heated to partially set them on fire. They now became ironclad. Artillery technology was moving on as well, so you had bigger, more powerful guns.
The new defences consisted of concrete gun ports called casemates, wrapped around the south of the island. The Palmerston Forts were the largest and most expensive construction project of 19th century Britain, but the guns here were never tested. As the century drew to a close, a devastating new form of land warfare loomed on the horizon, with the Palmerston Forts eventually renamed Palmerston's Follies.
Further along the headland, time is nearly up for our 50 weathered wildcards, with the judges selecting just one to go forward to be in with a chance of making it to the semi-final.
It's been a good day. Funnily enough, being by the seaside, I think this happens quite a lot. When it gets sunny, the cliches of the seaside start popping up in the paintings, and really good paintings sort of tip.
There's been so much potential here. I really like the lady who made most of the picture, her umbrella.
Yeah. There's a young woman who's painted the lighthouse from early this morning, and it's grubby and it's gloomy and it's sort of got a strange narrative to it.
Yeah, and it's the banks of colour are sort of really abstract in a way, but they belie the level of complexity of the greens in there, for example. I really like that one.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello. You're our Wildcard winner. I am absolutely serious.
Beth Uglow from Truro will enter a pool of wildcard winners from all the heats, at the end of which one will be selected for a place in the semi-final.
Yeah, we love it. We think it's great.
The lady sat next to me said she's coming this way, and I was like, no, no, no. Oh, just shock. Absolute shock. I feel amazing. I feel completely blown away. I'm just gonna go home and try and wrap my head around what's just happened, I think.
But for our artists looking out over Drake's Island, it's all about those final artistic flurries as the competition reaches its concluding hour. With the pressure on, reassurance from a loved one is sought.
What do you think? I might put boat in.
Yeah.
They always go on about how twee boats are, and I don't so I don't know whether to or not.
Twee, it's fine.
I used to have a little cottage behind that headland. There's two little fishing villages that you can't see.
Let's pop it in. There you go.
Oh, my cottage. Joan was here.
I really kind of want to keep that ethereal, grey qualities of the landscape. And yeah, I actually am enjoying the atmospherics today.
You can get to a point where you're happy with it, which takes a long time, but it can take maybe a second to do something that can take half an hour to fix. So I want to try and avoid that.
Here on Plymouth Hoe, our 8 artists have just minutes left to complete their marine masterpieces. But for one artist, it's decision time, and one they're not making alone.
What do you reckon, gang? Which one? Come on.
Artists, you have 5 minutes left.
Okay.
5 minutes left.
I'm beginning to fiddle, so I'm actually quite pleased there's 5 minutes left.
Are you happy with what you've done?
I forced myself to stop.
Why?
Because the lights changed too much, and I'm about as far as I can go with it, really. I think I'll know in a few days whether it's all right.
I think I've been looking at it too long now.
Packing up now.
Well, yeah.
You've got somewhere to be.
I'm
We need to tell the
teaching
ju-
tomorrow.
Oh, are you? So we tell
Yeah.
the judges to get on with it?
Yeah, that'd
Fair
be
enough.
nice.
It feels like I'm sort of teetering on the edge of either success or disaster.
Artists, your time is up.
Please put down your utensils and stand away from your work.
With our artists' work complete, it's time for our judges to assess the finished seascapes.
I was very concerned that James would overwork this, but I mean, you still even see the raw canvas coming through in the sky that was there this morning. I think the cool tones of the water in the sky against these kind of very warm earth patches of paint, almost sort of shiny and luscious, all hangs together very nicely.
It's a fantastic technique, and all credit to her for sort of having discovered it.
The sky and the water are extremely beautiful. I love the land in Tony's piece. I love definitely the dark blue receding land. I don't love the tiny little details in the foreground of the water.
This is the second of his too. I think he took a public vote, asked everyone to decide which one he should put forward.
I find this scene incredibly moving. Pavel has absolutely captured the atmosphere that he was trying to capture this morning, about the sort of the desolate corner of some forgotten harbour.
She's used a really charming shorthand, particularly there with all the detail on the promenade. We really do feel like we're headed far out to sea with those clouds.
What I really like about Mike's work is this sort of bird's eye view that we have, and this wonderful sort of vignette here, and this thrusting frigate, or whatever it is, coming into view on the left-hand side.
I really like Paula's sense of composition. The sky is fantastic. I think the headland and the island are beautifully done. The water, I have a problem with. I can see she was trying to do something with the dynamics of the currents, but it looks like it's not a flat surface here. It looks like it's folded.
I love the little attention to detail. There's a tiny little set of stairs there, which are absolutely adorable. It's really convincing in its sort of sense of depth and scale.
The judges can only pick one artist to send through to the semi-final. To help their decision-making, they start by reducing the selection to a shortlist of 3.
I see 3 who are very realistic or traditional in a sense.
Funnily enough, this larger one doesn't do very much for me, so I almost think this counterintuitively has got this kind of real zoomed-in sense of real scale.
I like the serenity that some of them captured, actually, but that one for me has caught it really well. I do think, for me, it's these 2 and that one.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Top 3.
Artists, we commend you all on the remarkable artwork you've achieved today.
But of course, this is a competition, and the judges can only select 3 artists to shortlist. The first artist the judges have selected is James Murch.
The second artist on the short list is Lisa Takahashi.
The third artist is Pavel Isapov.
Our commiserations to the rest of you, but your talent and enthusiasm has kept us enthralled all day, so thank you very much for coming.
Well done.
Hard luck.
So much.
You've had a good day.
Lovely piece of work. From their shortlist, the judges must now select just one winner. To help them, they take into consideration the selected artist's submission artworks.
What variety you've given us in your shortlist today. You'd be hard-pressed to recognise that James and Pavel have painted the same place. And Lisa's work is in a completely different medium.
It'd be a great exhibition, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So how do you come to this list?
They've all found their own little corners or excerpts of the view that we had and given us a real sense of the bit of Plymouth Hoe that they experienced today.
James, in his submission, gave us a lot of green with a bit of water. Today, we've got a lot of water with a bit of green.
He's very consistent, and, you know, the brush marks are put down in a very similar way. And, you know, and he's kind of getting away with murder with those big dashes of blue to delineate this blue sky that we had. I mean, it's convincing, although it's, you know, really quick.
What we have a lot of today is sky. Pavel has avoided that.
Pavel chose to concentrate in a corner of a busy port town, and when he looked down this morning, there was nothing going on. And I like the fact that he grasped that as something poignant and worth painting.
And he's kept it with his signature style, you know, with that wonderful curve. He was looking for that shape right from the very start, and he found it naturally in the landscape.
Lisa gave us this very brightly coloured Padstow scene. Today, she's altered her style.
I thought what she did with the houses is really sweet, and it's got a charm that's certainly there in the submission. But here, you know, I see a sense of her, but I just see her showing us that she's got a lot of range, and that's really encouraging.
Well, you've got 3 styles of painting, processes and outcomes, so you deciding will be a real problem.
It's a lovely problem we like having as judges, really.
James, Pavel, Lisa. Well, it's clear each one of you has impressed the judges, but then only one can be a winner.
The artist who will be going through to the semi-final is... James Murch.
I feel amazing to win, a bit dazed, and it feels kind of surreal. Massive confidence boost. Really means a lot, and it means that I could potentially justify spending a lot more time painting and less time working.
James is really exciting to watch today because he was able to give us a sense of distance. There was a real energy in the paint marks. They were believable, but there was such brevity. He didn't need to put much down. He was masterful at telling us the sun came out with that one blue dash in the sky. So I'd like to see more of that. I hope he's as confident today, if not more so, in the semi-final.